How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. I'm Noodles. We're going to talk about Starfield. More importantly, we're going to talk about the lore behind Starfield because Bethesda has released a timeline showcasing the events that have happened since we left Earth all the way up until the game begins. Starting off, the year is 2050. Humans have left Earth and went to Mars. Elon Musk, he did it. He got us to Mars. In the year 2100, the vast majority of humans are living in space. Mars, space stations, the moon, for that matter. In 2156, humans arrive in Alpha Centauri. Alpha Centauri is the closest solar system to our solar system, and it's 4.37 light years away from Earth. In 2159, the United Colonies are established. We have multiple different settlements throughout each of the solar systems that have combined together for one cause known as the United Colonies. So you have all these colonies, and they're uniting.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
In 2160, New Atlantis is founded and becomes the official capital city of the United Colonies, and that happens in 2161. In 2167, a man named Solomon Coe, he settles in a system called Cheyenne, and he founds his first settlement, which is known as Aquila City. So now you have the United Colonies, and they have their capital city, which is New Atlantis, and then you have Solomon Coe, he's discovered this new system, and he has his own city called Aquila City. In 2188, Coe has his system, Cheyenne, with his city, Aquila City. He calls up these guys over here, which is Voli, and they're not established with anybody. He asks them to join in a new alliance.
You son of a bitch.
Which is known as the Freestar Collective. The Freestar Collective officially is formed in 2189. So now you have the United Colonies and you have the Freestar Collective. The Freestar Collective is made up so far of the Cheyenne system and the Voli system. So in 2194, the United Colonies position a star station called the Clinic in orbit around a planet called Dipala, which is in the Narian system. Now we have a new system, the Narian system. The Narian system and its people, they're not affiliated with anybody. They're not in the United Colonies. They're not in the Freestar Collective. They're just their own people, not bothering anybody. But the Narian people, they see this as an attempt for the United Colonies to expand their borders. They demand that the United Colonies remove the Clinic from their system. But of course, the United Colonies refuse.
Not gonna happen! No, not gonna happen!
And when they do refuse, the people of the Narian system, they vote to join the Freestar Collective. Once they join, Freestar Collective is like, well, we're going to protect you. So they start to mobilize. In 2195, they start their journey to the Narian system to protect them from the United Colonies. In 2196, in response to the Freestar Collective mobilizing their troops to defend the Narian system, United Colonies sees them on their way there, so they head them off and they take their ships and they move them all the way into the Narian system. Obviously, the Freestar Collective does the same thing and moves all their ships into the Narian system. And this begins the Narian War. So in 2216, this war has now been going on for 20 years. The people hate it. The United Colonies hate it. The Freestar Collective hates it. They want to be done with it. So the United Colonies and Freestar Collective, they sign a treaty, and the treaty is called the Treaty of Narian. This ends the conflict immediately. And in the treaty, the term settled systems is formalized. So now you have the United Colonies and you have the Freestar Collective under this umbrella called the settled systems, which is a sign of peace. Everybody's getting together. Everything's good. In 2221, the Freestar Rangers are founded as an elite protective and investigative force dedicated to serving all citizens of the Freestar Collective. In 2275, Constellation is formed by Sebastian Banks. The original members include Chloe Bao, who was an accomplished physicist, Aja Mamasa, who was the youngest member and Sebastian's protege, Darius Andrus, who was a botanist and a specialist in xenoflora, Bernadette Laurent, she was a wealthy heiress and adventurer. You had Everardo Gill, who was a former smuggler, and Kadri Toma, who was a biologist and a physician. The Lodge, which was a headquarters built in New Atlantis to serve the needs and people of Constellation. And then in 2305, Barrett, who we've seen in the Starfield Direct, joins Constellation. This is where stuff gets a little crazy. The Freestar Collective begins farming on a planet called Vesta in the Lunara system. And then by 2308, the United Colonies claims that by establishing a colony in a fourth star system, the Freestar Collective has actually violated the Treaty of Narian.
Stop! You violated the law.
The United Colonies and Freestar Collective tried to solve things diplomatically, but that doesn't work. The United Colonies lays siege to Vesta. The people of Vesta tried to evacuate, but anybody who was left behind was killed. Anybody who was brought in to defend them was killed. And that begins the Colony War. In 2310, Constellation comes into possession of their first artifact. They have no idea what the artifact is or what it does, so Constellation tucks it away into the Constellation archives and forgets about it, doesn't touch it for many years. In 2311, after years of conflict, the Colony War effectively comes to an end with the Battle of Cheyenne because the Freestar Collective had military ships and civilian ships. They completely outnumbered the United Colonies and was able to take down their major ships in their navy using hit and run tactics. So because of this, the Colony War came to an end. Right after that though, in 2315, the United Colonies Vanguard was founded. And this was mainly in part to a response to the Freestar Collective winning the Colony War with their civilian ships. The Vanguard is essentially the United Colonies' civilian army, and they primarily rely on the civilians using their own ships. So if you want to join the Vanguard, you just have to have a ship and a will to fight, and then you can be in the army. And it is said that if you join the Vanguard as a civilian, you automatically gain citizenship to the United Colonies. It's like a fast track. In 2319, Sarah Morgan becomes the youngest head of the United Colonies Navigator Corps. Although it is a short-lived position because the Navigator Corps ended up shutting down in 2320, only a year later. So, Sarah Morgan, with nowhere to go, but she's still eager to use her training that she received and put it to good use, she joins Constellation. 2321, Walter Stroud, the co-owner of Stroud Eklund, which is one of the Settled System's premier starship manufacturers. Walter actually joins Constellation as their primary financial backer. In 2322, former Crimson Fleet pirate Vladimir Sol joins Constellation. Constellation essentially is a group of explorers from every walk of the Settled Systems. In 2325, Sarah Morgan becomes the acting chair of Constellation. In 2325, theologian Matteo Catri joins Constellation. Don't know what a theologian is? It's basically an expert on God. In 2326, Barrett finds the original artifact that Constellation tucked away and knows that it's special. I think we know why. You know, the visions.
You dug up the artifact, right? That means you saw it. The visions?
In 2327, Freestar Ranger Sam Coe and his daughter join Constellation. In 2328, Andrea joins Constellation. 2328, Barrett convinces Constellation to purchase the star station L868 and modify it to become a deep space scanner nicknamed the Eye. And then lastly, 2330, Starfield begins. As you can see, the game's not even out yet, and there's so much lore already Bethesda has done a great job of building up the history of where we begin in the settled systems. There has been a lot of conflict, as with every human society. If you take the timeline from 2156, okay? From 2156, this is when we left our solar system and went to Alpha Centauri. This is when we reached the farthest reaches of space that we possibly could in 2156. And then in 2196, which was 40 years later, the Narian War begins. So it only took us getting to the farthest reaches of space 40 years, and we're already at war with each other. Baffling. That goes to show, and that really says something about humans as a species. They're stupid. But also, there's so much that we don't know either. We have the Crimson Fleet. When were they formed? We have all the different religions as well. A lot of the religions were only formed a couple of years ago. So there's a lot more lore that we still have yet to discover, which we're going to learn about in books, talking to people, different quests that we go on, which is what I'm really excited about, because that was one of the things that I most enjoyed about the Elder Scrolls series. The Elder Scrolls had a vast amount of lore behind it. There were civil wars, there were different factions, there were different gods, religions, all kinds of things that made this world feel alive. And the more you learned about it, the more invested you became in the game and in knowing about the world of Tamriel or Nirn, you know. So, guys, I really appreciate you joining me. Starfield comes out in 7 days, and I'm super excited about it. But that's all for today. I really appreciate you guys joining me. Like and subscribe at the bottom. It really, really helps me out. We just hit 20,000 subscribers, and I couldn't do it without you guys. So in 7 days, we're all going to be playing Starfield, and I hope to see you there. Peace out.